I just clicked on my insert edge loop, and you go onto the edges where you want to insert more definition. For example, you might want to say I want to insert it here. I'm going to say Command Z. I really want to insert it in the neck a little bit more. I think this neck needs some love. And maybe back here it would be nice to have a little bit more definition. So you basically click and drag where you feel like it would help to have a little extra, what Eric was asking. What if I want an extra vertex or an extra edge in there? So as you can see now, I have more definition in here that is kind of helpful. You can continue to do it again, right? You can go in here and say, okay, now I want a little bit more in here, and I'm adding one right here, and maybe one more like here, so the tail has more definition, and etc., etc. But the edge loop is really fantastic because it just allows you to put definition where you need it. So what I want to do is I want to go back in object mode, and now I want to extrude my legs, right? So I know that the legs are here and back here. In fact, sometimes what I do is I go and say edge, for example, and select this edge and shift select this one. And then I go on the side view and I make sure that indeed those are the right places where to extrude. And sure enough, I got it right. They're right here and right here is where I'm going to extrude for the legs. Before I extrude for the legs, though, I need to split that face back underneath so that I have separation in there, so I have the two legs and a little space in between. So I'm going to go in here right now, knowing that I need to act on this face and this face. I'm going to right mouse click and say face. Now, do you remember that I had you save that multi-cut tool right here in the shelf? So right now is when it's time to use the multi-cut. If somehow you did not save it in your shelf, remember you can go to this toolkit, modeling toolkit, and right here you have multi-cut, right? So you can go and say, okay, I'm going to choose multi-cut. Now notice if you do it in the toolkit, it works slightly differently because when you activate it in the toolkit, then you have to turn it off when you're done. So right now I have it active, and I can go in here and say, okay, I'm going to select here and here. There's the first leg, return. Then I'm going to select here and here. So I have three zones, right? The two legs in the middle. And I need to do the same right here. So I'm going to go and do click and click. And I know I can move those points later. It's no big deal. And then return and click and then return. Then I'm going to go under multi-cut and turn it off. And now I need to figure out if that's how we want those divisions. We might want them a little bit different. At this point, what we need to do is go on the move tool. On the top view, and use the move tool to move those vertices where we want them. Because right now I just was eyeballing them in the 3D view that is really hard to do. So what I'm going to do right now here is I'm going to actually first go in the 3D view. I'm going to go in here and choose vertex. Then I'm going to select, for example, this vertex and even maybe this one. And now when I go on my top and I hit W, I can move this one way or the other. We might decide that actually I don't want to move both. I'm going to shift click this one to deselect it, so I have only one. And I'm going to move just that one a little bit more to this side. And then now I can shift click the second one. I'm going to hit W so I can see what I'm doing. Shift click the second one, hit W, and I go in the top view here and scoot it over a little bit. So this is my first leg. So I need to act on this one too to kind of straighten it up because it's kind of a little bit annoying. Some days you won't be able to select it that well in top view. If you hit Q, the manipulator goes away and you can see things a little bit better. And then you go back to W. So the second leg, there we are, I have it here. So these are my two legs in this kind of like area, in the back area of the alligator. And what about these one? Okay, this one needs to be moved a little bit, but you can see what I'm doing, right? I'm kind of preparing so that when I extrude the legs, they're kind of a decent size and they're the way they're supposed to be. All right, so now I'm good. I can select these faces that I want to extrude. Oops. So I'm going to go and let's extrude first the front legs for the sake of it, even though I can extrude them all in one shot, right, if I wanted to. But let's go in here and say, oops, sorry. I'm going to right mouse click and say face, shift and shift. And then I'm going to hit extrude, that is here, polymodeling, extrude. And let's look at what happens in the side view, because that kind of really helps me out. So what happens if I click on this little icon in the extrude? it kind of doesn't do much. If this face was a little bit, if I had been smart enough to make it a little bit, in fact, maybe I'm going to escape here and show you another way to do it. So I can obviously extrude down and then move it a little bit. Maybe that's what we'll do for now. And for the one in the back, I'll show you that if the face is slanted, this guy will prompt you to have two different axes of extrusion. I'm going to hit G again and extrude it one more time. And then get it a little bit smaller, and then G again one last time, and make it wide. Oops, sorry, I wanted to grab the box to make it wider, and then move it like this. All right, so this should be my two legs right here. Sure enough, they are. Right now, I'm seeing kind of just the bottom, you know, image plane, but life is good. These are good. Now what I was trying to show you earlier though is in this case, right now I'm going to get out of my extrude mode, and if I go here for example and I hit vertex and I select, like for example, this vertex, I marqueed it. When I click and drag, this is called marquee, and allows you to select all of these, right? If I, instead of marqueed it, I had clicked one vertex, it was just taking this outer one that is no good. I want to move them all. So I'm going to grab those by click and drag. Then I'm going to hit W, and I'm going to move that vertex a little bit down. So now my plane, this plane that I'm going to extrude from, is not perpendicular to the ground, right? To basically the X and Z axis. So let me actually go in here and do what I did earlier. I am going to right mouse click, face, select these two faces. And now when I go into my extrude, that is here, see what happens on the side view. So you can see now that what it's doing is by default is extruding perpendicularly to the face. But if I go in here and I click this little icon, it will allow me to extrude perpendicularly to the, you know, following the world axis in Maya. So it's up to you. We could kind of go the other way right now. Use the one that is perpendicular to the face. Move it out a little bit. And then maybe extrude again. I'm hitting G, but this time I'm going to go down. So I'm going to use the world axis. So I went perpendicular to the face the first time, and then I started kind of going down this way. And I'm going to make it a little bit skinnier. And then I'm going to hit G again. And I'm going to extrude one last time. Actually, let me do that. I'm going to extrude perpendicular to my world axis. And I'm going to scale it. Now, the problem when you don't go perpendicular to your world axis, when you start finagling, when you have a slope, and you start finagling with this icon, is now my legs are not precisely just on, you see they're kind of rotated. And it's not the end of the world. One way to fix it is to say, okay, I'm going to go under vertex, I'm going to select those vertices, and I'm going to move them up. You can even snap to grid, but for now I'm going to just keep it simple and move them up a little bit. But be aware that when you have an angle that is different than the world angle, you know, the axis of Maya, things can get a little bit more complicated, but not too bad. Sometimes it's an advantage, though. It really helps you out because then you don't have to worry about. Now, one of the two legs, though, is actually here. So I need to move it, right? So right now I kind of extruded the two legs together. But in reality, the one in the back, this leg should be kind of moved, right? So that's kind of can be tricky. Except remember, you can go under shading and choose X-ray that allows you to see that back leg. Or you can go right here on the top view and say, okay, I'm going to pick, for example, is this the leg? So I need to figure out which one is the back leg. Yeah, that is the back leg. Or obviously you can do it in 3D. You can go in 3D and say, okay, I'm going to select, I'm going to zoom a little bit closer, select the vertices in that leg. Let me actually go in side view because I know in the side view, if I go in X-ray mode, I can see a lot better. X-ray. There it is. The problem is they're perfectly aligned, so it's really the perspective view is going to be the best help here. So that's one thing with Maya, that sometimes it gets a little bit tricky, because if things are one exactly on top of the other, you basically need to zoom in and do a precise job with the perspective view and make sure that, you know, you get the right vertices. But it's no big deal. It's a matter of being precise. Sometimes I hit Q to get rid of the manipulator, so it's not in my view and it doesn't bug me as much. I think that's really all we need, is the bottom part of the leg. The top needs to be attached there, so life is good. So what I can do right now is I can hit W in there and move those vertices that I just selected. Ooh, I forgot one. Ouchie. This one right here, I forgot it. One of the vertices, I can even see which one. Back here, I forgot. Shoot. You see that one back there? I had forgotten. Let me actually go around in the perspective view and make sure. Is everybody with me? This one is the one I forgot. I knew I had forgotten one. So we have the 3 at the very bottom, the 4 at the very bottom, the 4 of this edge loop, and the 4 of this edge loop. Okay, life is good now. All right, sorry, I had forgotten one vertex, so things were getting a little bit messy. Okay, so you have to start moving it. But then you realize, okay, it's fine to move it here, but what I need to move is I need to move this one too. So what I generally do is I move it a whole lot, knowing I can always go in and fix what needs to be fixed. Like if this guy needs to be moved, I click and drag, so I make sure I select them all, and then I move it a little bit. So bottom line, you can kind of start manipulating your leg to now look the way you want it to look. As long as you separate it from the one that was exactly on top of it, so now you can see how does this leg look like. Life is good. And I don't have that much definition in this leg, so maybe I need to insert an edge loop. It's fine. Let's see how it looks for now. Let me go back in here. Let me go back in off X-ray. Starting to look pretty good, right? In fact, if I go in object and I hit 3, it's starting to look pretty good, as an alligator should look. Is everybody with me? So how do we do the eye socket? Let's do that, and then we kind of stop the video and kind of... So where is the eye? Let's go and hit 1. The eye is right here, right? So I'm going to command, control, click, and drag, so I can see it is about here. So what I need to do is I need to carve a square area in here, kind of where I'm going to put the eye. Maybe I'll put it in this front area. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use the multi-cut tool. I'm going to show you how to do just one of the two, but we could hit symmetry and do it on both sides. Yes, Mars?
I think it said that the edges always move together, because I'm trying to separate the edges and it keeps like ripping the alligator apart every time I just select 2 edges. Wait, not this. I'm still trying to form the top of the alligator.
Like if you go and choose edge, Mars, and you click, edge? Are you using, why are you manipulating edges? So far,
because I'm not there yet. I'm trying to do like the top of the alligator. I'm really far behind. I'm trying to get there.
Okay, let me stop the video, because if I come to you, I really should. Let me actually show how to do the eye socket and then come to you. It'll take 5 minutes. Hold tight. So what I'm going to do right now is let me do it as fast as I can. Let me go into the multi-cut right here and cut out here, say click, and then click. Oops, sorry. I needed to hit, I apologize. I needed to hit enter. I'm going to hit return and then click and hit return. So now I have a face here, and I know I should have, it's fine. I'm going to do it as fast as I can and then redo it maybe later in a different video. But what I'm going to do, I could have turned on symmetry here and it would have done it on the other side. But what I want to show you right now is if I actually turn off multi-cut and I go in here and I choose face and I selected this face, and then I say, okay, now I need to kind of create a bit of an eye socket, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, again, hit that extrude command that we're so familiar with. But instead of extruding, that is pulling the arrows, I'm going to actually use this box right here, or even the center, and click and drag. And what that does, it didn't really, let me use this. What it does is it creates, I'm using it actually instead of going from the center, I'm going to go from the edges. What it does is creates a little bit more definition in that face. So now that face has kind of like a division all around. The reason why is because when you have the eye, you have to have a little bit of a kind of like smoothness to make before the eyes goes in, right? So I can hit that again another bunch of times. Or I can hit G and then start kind of extruding by bringing this guy in, right? And then I can hit G again and I can bring it in a little bit more. So now I know that right now is in super boxy mode, but if I actually go right now on my kind of like smooth mode and I hit 3, you can see that I'm starting to get an eye socket in there. Do you see that? So how did I do it? I'm going to redo it again. Okay, guys, I'm going to go get one. So what I did is I had a face that I had just derived through the multi-cut tool. There we are. So what I knew is that whenever you do an eye socket or an ear, that we'll do more next week when we do character design, you don't just take that face and go in. And that's it, because then you won't have any kind of transition. Like if right now I went in here and I hit like this and I just straight go in. That's all. And then I go and smooth it. It's not going to be as nice, right? When I go and I hit 3, it just goes in kind of in a more like here, this edge is almost 90 degree. So if you want that edge to not be that 90 degree, to be more like smooth, to kind of taper in, one way to do it, and I'm going to do Command Z and Command Z so that you see the other option. Command Z and Command Z, oops. So instead of doing just go in, what you can do is you can extrude, but you instead scale it in a little bit, and you can do it again, hit G and scale it in a little bit. So every time you scale it in, once you start going in, extrude it in, you can extrude you move in all of these rings into space so that you get a transition. I'm going to hit G again, but this time I'm going to just go in. And remember, these guys to the outside, these rings, you can move them into space. You can go in there and say, hey, I want to select faces, and you select these faces and you kind of push them in gradually. Bottom line is you can kind of shape it a little bit now that you have more definition. You don't have a 90 degrees angle. And when you finally are done, and I'm going to kind of like move fast right now because I want to help you guys, and you hit 3, you're kind of, you see right now because I tapered it in even more, it has even more definition. My point is that you can go in there and kind of create the eye socket gently by doing multiple extrusion and scaling it, versus if you just do it one time, you'll have a much like a rougher edge at that eye socket. I'm going to stop the video so I can go and help Mars. Okay, guys?